Yo, this is very bad news for Jancinta Ngobese-Zuma. The ANC has just made a declaration that could completely backfire on the anti-immigration narrative she's been pushing. What you're about to watch is Fikile Mbalula, openly warning against tribalism, xenophobia, and targeting specific groups in South Africa. But listen carefully, because many people believe these statements could eventually put certain politicians and activists in very serious legal trouble. Welcome back to Patriotic Mzansi News. If you're not subscribed yet, smash that like button, turn on notifications, and let's get into it. Sifo, roll the tape.
And then they close them down and they say that, no, small businesses here in Ghana are for Ghanaians, and so on. So we must never allow ourselves to be characterized as xenophobic by failure to enforce our laws. And be clear, we have a problem in South Africa of illegal, undocumented people who come to our country. And that is a big risk of national security. But at the same time, there is a danger that this situation can degenerate and become a state of lawlessness, and people just get funded. You can see some of them, they are well funded, these NGOs and so on, and the people that lead them. But the minute you touch on them, you touch the raw nerve, because people are afraid to tell the principle and the truth because of elections. South Africans are not xenophobic. They don't hate other Africans. The issue that we challenge and agree with, we've got the problem of undocumented people here, and they are not just African. Even though they are in majority in African, there's even white undocumented people here. They are sophisticated because of the color of their skin. So some of them own shops, Hyde Park and everywhere else, but they don't have documentation and so on. So we need to deal with that. And government need to lead that issue with confidence. On Sunday Times, and at the same time in terms of laws, but at the same time in terms of protecting the citizenry. If that does not happen, anyone can call himself a leader and emerge on a popular front and be funded by people with dubious interest to our country, to hurt our country's image. It's not good for South Africa to be projected in the international landscape as a xenophobic people. You will know, most of you who travel abroad, people love this country. Yes, we've got problems, but we don't want to compare with others. The question of illegal immigration is global. Donald Trump has gone to the House, and they gave him billions of rands to execute what is called ICE. People have been chased up and down, arrested in America, and all of that, and been victimized, and so on. We don't want to degenerate to that level. We want money and laws that protect us. And we illustrate in our statement what are those laws that we need to implement. We are not concerned about much and much. They are raising an important issue that is in the public domain that is well known to all of us. I was a minister of police. If I were to take a practical an example, we were working here around the city center. Herman Mashaba was a mayor for a few days before the DA ejected him. We went here, buildings are full of people who are undocumented here. So if you were to walk in the streets here and somebody pickpocket you, and we chase that person and get into that building, we will never know who did this crime. They are undocumented, unregistered, and it's a national security threat. So government must not allow this anarchy in our country to engulf us as though we don't have a state. We must put down the state, not boots and all of that, but through the laws, and they must be enforced. Now, All the other issues, we will be able to deal with them because we cannot afford our country to be characterized as a country that hates Africans, and that is xenophobic. Just by looking at Samkelo in his color and being very black, then you decide that no, Lomfo, I uvelaphi. You know, there is a stage in this country where police were going in the streets and look. Remember that? When there was what is that place of Home Affairs? Lindela, where people were taken in Lindela by buses, and then they look at your face. If you can't speak properly, you speak Venda or you speak Tsonga, they take you to Lindela. Hey man, I'm from Venda, and so on and all of that. And just the tribalistic thing. And hurting ourselves in the process. People are protesting. Uvumuntu protest. Aswafuna Mashangaan. Shangaans are part of us. These are our people. What have Shangaans done to us? In these protests, you hear people say, hey, Aswafuna Mashangaan. Now you want us to keep quiet in the name that we are protesting. No, that can't be right. We can't allow infested tribalism that undermines our unity to basically escalate in our country like that. Yes, people have got the right to protest. Government, in terms of its responsibility, must cushion its citizens and all of that. I see the president of Rwanda the other day said that, I don't understand, he mentioned countries, what do they want here because there's no war there. In Rwanda, said by the head of state. And then I've seen Ghana, I've been to Ghana. I've seen small businesses being closed down, particularly from Nigerians because they are just from next door, you know. And then
Let's start with what Fikile Mbalula said about tribalism, because that is the part many people are going to overlook. But in my opinion, it was actually the most important statement in that entire clip. The ANC Secretary General was not just talking about illegal immigration. He was drawing a line between border control concerns and rhetoric that can be interpreted as xenophobic or tribal. And the moment he specifically mentioned Shangaan-speaking people being targeted, you could already tell the ANC is becoming very uncomfortable with the direction some activists and political figures have taken this conversation. Now, personally, I think this is where the situation starts becoming dangerous for Jancinta Ngobese-Zuma politically and possibly even legally. Because once the ruling party publicly distances itself from certain language and certain styles of mobilization, people begin asking whether some statements that were previously treated as political activism could eventually cross into incitement or hate speech territory. I am not saying she has committed a crime. What I am saying is that the ANC is clearly sending a warning that they do not want to be associated with rhetoric that could divide South Africans along ethnic or tribal lines. And then there was another important part people must pay attention to. Mbalula said illegal immigration is not limited to African nationals, and that there are also undocumented white people living and doing business illegally in South Africa. That statement completely changes the framing of this debate because the ANC is trying to shift the conversation away from nationality, tribe, and race and bring it back to documentation and legality. Whether people agree with that approach or not, politically it is a very calculated move. In my opinion, the ANC understands that public frustration over immigration is real, but they also know that if this conversation continues becoming more tribal and emotionally charged, it could create social instability and serious legal complications for certain public figures. That is why Mbalula sounded so direct in that clip. This did not sound like ordinary political messaging. It sounded like the ANC publicly warning people not to cross certain lines. And if that warning is ignored, some people could eventually find themselves facing very serious consequences.